I just had to re-add it again. Awesome. I wonder if I'm gonna have to do that every time. Okay, so once it pulls up live here. All right, it says we're live, so welcome. I'm so excited to have you here, Jaime. And as I'm looking at my computer, sometimes when I'm looking at you, it looks like I'm looking down, but I'm like looking at you on the screen. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking at you on the technology. So anyway, welcome to the Sacred Sexy Shameless group. Today, everyone here, please welcome Jaime Lee Colyer. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce you. And then I always like asking about your personal journey as well. So I'll have you share that in just a moment here as well, so people can hear more from you. So Jaime Lee Colyer is a photographer, storyteller, and life coach specializing in identity excavation. She's an American expat that now lives on a Greek island in the Mediterranean, where she boldly and audaciously rebuilt her life at the age of 40. Jaime's unique background includes degrees in art history, interior design, and 15 years experience consulting in financial technology. So welcome. And I just found out too that you graduated from Layla Martin's group, and I did not know that either. So it's just a big mix of amazing stuff that you've have experience in. So I'm really excited to chat with you today about all of this.
Thanks so much for inviting me. And I'm so excited to get to connect with you in person.
Yeah, same with you. Yeah, and live in real time. And I love that you have the Mykonos, the famous, or excuse me, in Santorini, or one of the Greek islands that they're known for their windmill. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So before we dive fully into all things crypto, I'd love to hear more about what has led you to where you are now, you know, whether that's some of the trainings that you've gone through, how you came across crypto, all of that stuff. So in your own words, I'd love to hear about your journey to where you are today.
So my journey is one that I think, you know, it's funny, in my travels in these communities, connecting with different folks, there's something that often happens for particularly women, I think, at like midlife, whether that be 40, 50, what have you, where we kind of can come to these crossroads. So that happened for me at 40. There was a series of life events from like 38 to 40. I call them significant like ruptures in my life. My mother died. My then husband had a serious cancer experience. He's recovered and healthy, and that's beautiful. But those things together created a lot of stress in our life, and we discovered a lot of fissures in our relationship and our marriage, and it didn't survive those things. Personally, I didn't have a lot of the tools that I have now to know how to navigate through a lot of that stuff, and I was sort of the classic over-functioning, over-performing, people-pleasing, let me try to do everything perfect, martyr control freak, which, you know, leads to burnout and exhaustion and disappointment, and then you throw in a bunch of life stuff that's complicated. And yeah, so anyway, at 40, my life kind of blew up. And we had been working in our business together. So I found myself end of marriage, end of career, exhausted, burned out, pretty much like at the low point of my life, hating myself, loathing who I saw in the mirror. And I made a bold, audacious choice to like put my life on hold as I was getting a divorce and not put it back together. To say, I didn't navigate my mom dying very well. I didn't navigate my now ex-husband's cancer very well. Divorce is kind of shitty. This feels like the low point in my life, but I want to learn from those previous two situations, and I want to navigate this differently with vulnerability, with compassion. And I need to give myself space to just be and to grieve. And so I gave myself 3 months to go on a sabbatical from my life, and I took myself to Europe, and I just traveled around alone and got to know myself. And I cried a lot, and I walked a lot, and I explored a lot, and I came to life. And I was like, wow, that feels like it was just the door opening to something. How can I make this more of my life? And so I went back to the US. I got some of my affairs in order. I sold a bunch of my stuff, continued the process of dissolving our marriage, sorting stuff out, got all our financial stuff sorted. And I went back traveling for 6 more months and gave myself more time to process and heal and really rediscovered myself, came to know who I am in a totally different way. Um, and it opened my eyes too to living differently. You know, I sold most of my possessions, I put the rest in storage, I packed a bag, and I was traveling for 6 months living out of just what was in a single bag. Now it's a big bag, but still, right?
Yeah.
My life got a lot simpler. And it was like, wow, so who do I want to be when I'm no longer trying to answer the questions of what do I do for work and who's my family and where do I live? Like, who am I, the human, and how do I desire to show up in the world became my focus, and my life shifted. And so I started following intuition more. I started following pussy more. I started following my passions more. I started following what made me feel alive. During that same time frame, I took one of Layla Martin's courses, and then I saw the information around her coaching certification program. And there was a response, a visceral response inside that was like, you need to do this. So I signed up for it. And I gave myself permission to like live in a really messy way, to not be figuring out my career or my home or where I was going to live, and intentionally like keep those answers on hold while I figured me out. Now, the first question people typically ask is, how could you possibly do that, right? So I was fortunate enough to have, in the 20 years prior to that, worked in the financial technology industry as a consultant. And I had a great job, and I had invested money in retirement and things. And my ex-husband and I, he had a construction company, and we were great business partners. And we developed those businesses, and then we started another real estate investment company. And so we did good business together. And when we separated, I wrote our financial separation agreement because I was sort of the finance person. He was used to me doing that kind of stuff. I said, hey, I'll map it out for us, and then you can look it over and see what you think. And I developed it in a way that he had to buy me, like the laws say he had to buy me out of the business, and I gave him 3 years to buy me out and pay me income over those 3 years. And it was a little bit of income, but it was enough that I felt secure to give myself time and space to figure out who I wanted to be. And our house had a certain value, and my retirement assets had a similar value. And I said, why don't you take the house, because it's continuing to grow and appreciate in the market we're in. That can be a great retirement for you. I'll take my financial retirement assets. They're about the same value. I knew that I would feel more secure having a bulk of assets, not feel like I was totally untethered. He thought that made sense. We split that stuff that way. And so he had to pay me some additional lump sum payments buying me out of the business. And I took that money and was like, okay, how do I live differently? What do I want to do with this money to consider building myself a different life? And traveling in different countries and seeing how people live in different places gave me different insights to how I could live. Not everybody lives the same way as people do in the US. Not everything costs the same as things do in certain cities in the US. And so that also perspective opened up a variety of possibilities to me as I reimagined what my life could look like. So I'm going to pause there. That's kind of how I ended up living in Greece. That's how I ended up sort of like living in a different way. That's how I got on the path of life coaching. That's how I financially had some cushion to start a new life. And I made some choices at that time. You know, when I started traveling, I didn't get a house or have rent or utilities. I cut all my expenses except for what I was paying for my traveling. And I was lucky enough to keep health insurance through um, our old business together while I was transitioning. So I cut all my expenses to the minimum and only traveled. Um, and for a lot of folks I knew, that seemed risky. They're like, what? You're not going to have a place to call home? And I was like, well, home is going to be wherever I am for a little while until I figure that out. But that gave me financial flexibility to travel and explore without a lot of financial overhead. No car payment, no insurance, no utility bills, no rent. Like when you cut all those expenses out, I had my phone bill and wherever I was staying when I was traveling, right?
Mhm.
And so that created some different opportunities for me. I sold my car, I sold some other possessions, and I just embarked on let's see where I can go with this. And I started thinking about things differently and opening to different possibilities. So that was kind of how it got started.
I love it. It's like another version of Eat, Pray, Love, right? Where it's like, I love a good story of a woman rediscovering herself. And there is this element of sometimes there are those ruptures that happen in life for us to actually redefine, rediscover, recreate who we are and get to know ourselves again in a way, in a deeper way that, with you doing Layla Martin's program and like you said, getting to travel and experience different cultures where people don't live the way, even from state to state in the States. But when you go to another country, like you are learning a completely different way of living and eating and thinking and getting to soak in those cultures. And I love that so much of this speaks to my own journey of I've had very similar, like I'm a nomad. I have been nomadic for the past like almost year and a half now. I've done it in the past before. And um, it sometimes starts with a rupture that causes you to go do the thing. But for anyone that's ever wanted to go live abroad and has always been like secretly living vicariously through other people, it's like proof. You and I are both proof that like cutting some of the normal things that people think you need to be successful or to have your shit together or whatever, sometimes it's the most liberating thing you can do for yourself is to trust that desire to take you to places maybe that are uncomfortable or that are making you question everything. But if you know that that's the path for you, I cannot, I think from both of us cannot recommend it enough for rediscovering and rebuilding your sense of self and all the things. So thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And with that, how did you, the Greek islands are like literally one of my favorite places in the world. So what led you to Greece and deciding to kind of plant yourself in Greece for the time being?
So it's interesting. My ex-husband and I, along with two other friends, took a 2-week vacation to Greece. It was the first time I'd gone to Greece. A month and a half before he and I decided to divorce. And it was supposed to be this like 40th birthday trip for my girlfriends and I and a belated honeymoon for he and I, when in reality it was a can we fix our relationship thing? And the answer was no. But I hadn't done really any world traveling, international traveling in many years. And so the trip to Greece, there was just something that like opened inside of me. It was the most difficult and uncomfortable vacation I'd ever been on, and simultaneously like a soul opening experience too, the first time I was here in Greece. And there was something about the place that called to me and called to me to return. And I had a very intense experience in Mykonos, in the town of Mykonos, walking through the town solo. And there was like something that bubbled up inside of me that was like, you need to come back here. And so a month and a half later, my ex-husband and I split. It took me 3 months to kind of like transition. And then that following winter, January, I took my 3-month sabbatical. And at the end of my 3-month trip, I came back to Greece and I came back to the island of Mykonos and visited a tour guide that I had met on our trip. And I only spent 2 days here, but there was this sense of like, yeah, I'm supposed to go back there again. Like those 2 days were beautiful. It was like, there's more for you here. So then later that year, I traveled for 6 months in England and Scotland. I drove all over Scotland, just me in a car, 5,000 kilometers, tons of photos, like all over the highlands and islands of Scotland,
Oh
just
my
traipsing
gosh.
around like a rambling fool,
Amazing.
excavating and airing out my soul and healing myself. Like amazing. And I found myself in the highlands of Scotland uh, at the end of October, and it started to snow. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this cold weather.
Mhm.
And I was like, where do I want to go? And there was something inside that said, let's go back to Greece. And so I booked myself a villa back here in Mykonos for the month of November. This was the end of 2018. And I came back here and lived for a month. And it was an incredible experience. I loved it. And then I signed up for Layla Martin's coaching program. And the first trimester was supposed to be super intense, like personal exploration and growth. I was like, okay, like where do I want to be while I'm going through that? And it started the following January, February timeframe. I was like, we should go rent that. We, like me talking to myself, we should go rent that house in Mykonos again. So I came back the following February for like a couple months as my gift to myself while I was starting the program. And I started to like weave my way into the community and meet people and connect and feel like a part of life here. And then I met somebody and fell in love. And so I had to leave and we did long distance. And then I came back for 3 months and then I had to leave again and we did long distance. And then I came back February of 2020, right before we went into quarantine. And we got married in May of 2020, and I've been here ever since. And so I fell in love and got married and married a Greek man on the island of
Oh my God, I'm
Mykonos.
so jealous. I'm like, sign me up. I love all of this. And my best friend's gonna freak because she's obsessed with Scotland. I love all of this, Jaime. It's so fun. Aspirations for me. I'm like, send me to Greece. I'm gonna go visit Jaime and go find a future husband.
It's
I
so
love it.
crazy.
That's so much fun. Yeah, I love it. That's so fun. So much fun. I feel like there's like could be a book and movie out of this as well. It's so cool.
I hear that so much. I'm sort of working on them in the background.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Cool. Well, with that all being said, how did you get started into crypto? When did that all start commencing for you? And then we'll dive into the crypto because this is I think really new for a lot of people, and especially I think for women because it's like techie and money and all the things that a lot of people maybe are not super familiar with. So yeah, how did you get into crypto? What is crypto? And we'll dive in.
Okay, so last year, 2020, in the winter, like February, March, um, I had a real estate investment deal that wrapped up, and so I had some money from this real estate investment deal that I'd been involved in, sort of from my former life, and I had a bunch of money that kind of came to me as a when that property sold, and it came to me right around the time that like everything unfolded with the pandemic and the market crashed, and having been a financial investor in the equities and stock market for the past 15 years or so, and having learned the benefits of like when you have big market downturns, that's the time to buy because you
Yeah.
want to buy when it's on sale, right? So
Yeah.
I had this bulk of money and here was this massive sale. And I was like, oh, I've been wanting to get back into financial investing because I'd sort of put it on hold while I was traveling and healing and focusing on myself. I was like, now's a great time. Let's capitalize upon this big sale. And so I took that money, put it in my brokerage account, and started investing. And, you know, it's easy for us, I think, particularly as women, to be like, oh, I was really lucky, right? Like to downplay our success and our achievements. But in
Mhm.
truth, I had the wisdom of experience from having been an investor for 15 years to know that when timing hits like that, it's important to take advantage of it because there's huge gains uh, that you can achieve in those time frames. And so that wisdom and experience from before helped me know that that was a powerful time to invest. So I sort of got back into the investing mindset. And um, I also started thinking about, well, I have these retirement assets that I had this company managing for me because of when my ex-husband had cancer, I had quit managing them myself. I was like, oh, we're changing. I quit my corporate job and was working in our small business. Our risk appetite is different. I want some money managers to manage it instead of myself. And so I had them sort of managing it. They were a very well known firm. It made sense. So last year, when I was like, okay, I have the energy and the insight, and I'm interested in managing these things myself now, maybe I'll take some of those assets they're managing, and I'll start managing them myself. Because I was looking at the returns I was getting from them, and I was like, they're okay, but they're not great. I think I can do better. So I started peeling off some of those assets that they were managing, putting them under my direct guidance, and managing them myself. So whenever I do that, I read up on what's going on in the financial markets. What are the trends in different sectors? And having worked in finance and technology for a number of years, those are the areas I tend to read up on because those are the areas where there tends to be a lot of growth and innovation. So I started reading and following, subscribe to some different research services to get different ideas. Because I'm a busy woman like everybody, and I don't necessarily want to be going and doing all the research. There's other people that are really skilled at that. I will happily read their research and figure out what resonates for me and invest accordingly, right? We don't have to do it all to benefit from things, right? So I started signing up from some different services. I'm reading stuff, and the way I invest is I like to read, so this is like a no-brainer, and I like to read these topics. So I'm reading about stuff that's interesting to me. And then I kind of like tune in and listen to my inner wisdom and knowing and pussy and like, where does my intuition say this is a trend that should be paid attention to because I understand how humans are, right? Like, so it's like this intersection of knowledge and wisdom and bringing them together and saying that makes sense to me. I'm going to invest a little bit there. I'm going to invest a little bit there. So that was what I was doing March to June of 2020. And I was just seeing stuff increase. And I was like, wow, my proceeds are like my money is doubling and tripling. Okay. And I started hearing more and more about crypto. And crypto I'd been kind of aware of, like as this sort of like super secret off-grid something, what have you, right? Like I'm not sure what it is. I kind of hear about it. It seems super complicated. And I'm somebody that's like, if it's easy and efficient, like maybe I'll explore it. But when I had heard about it in the 2014, 2015, 2016 arena, it wasn't as accessible as it is now. So I was like, that seems like a lot of effort. I don't have the inclination for it. I didn't then in my life with everything that was going on. So I kind of didn't touch it. But when I started rereading about it last year in the 2020 timeframe, and I saw how much it shifted with what we'll call the maturation of it, of cryptocurrencies and these assets, and I'll kind of define what they are in a second. But when I saw what was happening and the maturation that had started to occur, where we're not like infancy anymore, and we're not really toddler, we're like grade school. It's like, okay, we've got some growth and some years of established patterns and behaviors. I was like, okay, this is piquing my interest. I have the capacity to read. I have this money. Like it's kind of like it's grown. These are proceeds. If I lost some of it, it wouldn't be a huge deal, right? Because it's all like winnings. It's all to the good side. Mm-hmm. So I started just peeling a little bit of that money out of those proceeds and starting to put them in to crypto and just explore and dip my toe in. And then I signed up for some specific services, information services related to crypto. And that was really how I started to expand my knowledge and awareness. And I'm an experiential learner. So I like to get an idea of kind of what's going on, understand the landscape, and then go play and explore and then refine my approach. And so that's really what I started doing last summer. So I really got into the arena at the end of June of 2020 and have been riding the crypto waves up and down. And it is a pretty volatile asset class, and it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting and entertaining. And adapting my investment strategies from the past 15 years to this specific market because it's different, and applying them in different ways and kind of tweaking them as I've been experiencing different stuff to work well within this particular asset class.
very
So,
cool.
for folks that don't know, the technical definition of like crypto or a cryptocurrency, and it's going to sound super wordy and nerdy, but I'm going to give you like, what does that really mean? So, a cryptocurrency is the native asset. So, it's kind of like the asset you would use on a blockchain network. So, it's a network. Blockchain is a specific type of technology, it's a decentralized ledger system. And that cryptocurrency is the asset used within that specific network. And it can be traded, it can be used as a medium of exchange, or used to store value. So I like to think of this like, remember when we were kids and maybe we were playing Tea Party? This is something I used to do. And I would get candy, and, like I'd have these little candies, and it's like, okay, Tea Party, here's your little pieces of value, and here's mine. And maybe we'd be playing cards and trading these Skittles, right?
I was
Like
just
for
thinking, I'm
whatever.
like the Skittles. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can
That's so funny.
apply that concept to this. So, like an analogy would be you and I, Nicole, you and I could be having an exchange, an interaction through some network of technology that we're utilizing. And maybe our interaction token or cryptocurrency is our Skittles, right? It's just a way of exchanging um, for goods, for value, um, for trade. And so, like, that's all a cryptocurrency is. Just think of it as like a digital form of exchange. Now,
Mhm.
it's specific to being used on these networks, blockchain networks. So, what is the blockchain? Blockchain is a technology that's called a decentralized technology. I want you to think of it, it's a decentralized ledger. Think of a spreadsheet. So instead of having a spreadsheet stored on your computer, the spreadsheet is stored across multiple systems across the world. So it's decentralized. The information in the spreadsheet, instead of just being stored in one location, is stored in hundreds of locations. And when you update the spreadsheet, it's updated in all 100 locations. What that means is if something happened to your computer and it was destroyed, the other 99 versions would still exist. If somebody hacked your version or 10 of the versions, 90 additional versions would still exist. So it's a distributed ledger technology that is more capable of thwarting attacks, system failure, all kinds of things. And it also means if, say, I was the old school owner of the ledger on my computer and I wanted to change all the data because I was what they call a bad actor or somebody up to nefarious activities, right? Like that can't happen. So it's also decentralized from a governance standpoint. It means that more people have eyes on the information. So it's more not democratic in the political sense, but democratic in the sense of available from an access perspective to multiple people. So it also helps prevent nefarious intentions and unethical behavior, right? So the blockchain technology was developed as a rebellious antidote to the big banking financial systems. It was developed as a result of the financial crash that occurred in 2007, 2008 as an antidote. And there's a whole lot more to it related to stores of value and currency and all kinds of other things that I'll cover in my foundational session I'm doing later this week. But just know that, like, so it's a cryptocurrency is a digital store of value stored on this decentralized network. There can be lots of different types of decentralized networks, lots of different types of stores of value. And that's kind of like what the crypto sphere is. Does that?
Yeah, the crypto lingo. I love it. Yeah. And I've heard too that it's really helpful for artists, whether it's for music or actual paintings or art, where it gives the money back to actually the artist versus it going to all these different hands and their rights in their publishing and all of the things too. I don't know if you can elaborate on that too, but I've heard that through just my own research that I've done too.
So what you're referencing is something new that's really come on the scenes recently this past year, which are called NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which basically means a digital representation of some asset. It could be art, it could be a piece of music, it could be a house, it could be a car, a collector's item. So any type of asset. An NFT is a digital ownership representation of that. And what's powerful about the NFTs is that they can be sold in partial shares. So you can, the asset can be, the value of the asset can be distributed into multiple NFTs. And so, like, if there was a classic car, for example, that you and I and 3 other people wanted to go into and buy, we could issue 5 NFTs for the different values that we each purchased related to that car, and we would each have a portion of the ownership of that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So where that becomes powerful for the artist or the owner of the asset is that they have, one, a potentially broader marketplace that they can sell the asset to. 2, they can sell it through partial shares. 3, the transfer of the asset happens within the digital marketplace. And so what you were referencing is that can cut down on the fees of the other hands involved, so that more of the proceeds of the sale of the asset go directly to the owner of the asset or the artist, depending on what the asset is. And the fees that are required to process it are distributed across the owners, maybe those 5 owners, and or because it's a digital network and these networks don't have, say, the overhead of office spaces and all kinds of other things that the existing big banking financial infrastructure does, the fees are also lower. So you have distributed fee distribution and lower fees costs in general. And so, and an ease of transfer, and then a record, an electronic record that again is stored in hundreds of places where everybody can see the transparency into who bought what, when, was there a certificate of authenticity. So it's like the technical innovation is making the sale more efficient, more transparent, more dynamic, and lower cost.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for explaining that. And so if someone's thinking of like basically crypto as online currency, I follow a TikToker who's an astrologer. I don't know, you may have heard her name, Marin Altman, but she's a pretty famous YouTube TikTok astrologer / crypto person. And she was talking about buying an apartment with crypto. So how does this work with as far as like in relationship to actual like direct hard printed cash versus like the online? How does that work? Like if you're using crypto, can you like translate it into printed out cash, or is it all trading online, staying in that space?
So a couple things. In the past few years, when I was talking about the maturation point of the industry, specifically in the last 2 years, a lot of things have changed where companies like Square, PayPal, Visa are creating mechanisms within their existing platforms where you can buy, sell, trade, leverage crypto as you're making purchases. So that didn't really exist prior to about prior to 2020. It did in very limited, narrow windows, but now it's becoming more widespread. This is why right now is a powerful inflection point in the adoption of crypto assets overall, because it's the mechanisms for using it in our day-to-day life are starting to become more available. So with these big companies who are financial services companies like PayPal, Square, um, Square owns the Cash App, PayPal has the Venmo app. So on those apps, Visa, they're issuing credit cards where you can get your rewards in crypto. MasterCard is a new deal with a new company to be able to do the same thing. Now there's all these different ways where you can more easily and seamlessly transfer your assets into crypto, out of crypto, buy things with your crypto. Whereas prior to last year, what you would have been looking at was taking your crypto assets, and you can still do this today, by the way, but prior to last year, you would have almost had to do it this way. Take whatever your crypto assets were, sell them for the equivalent cash money that you desired in whatever currency you desired it to be in, and then use the cash to purchase what you desired to purchase. Because the mechanism to purchase directly with the crypto didn't exist in the financial platforms prior to 2020. So you would have had to sell your crypto assets to do the purchase. And when that happens, it kicks off a tax event. So then you would then have a taxation on the growth from when you bought the crypto to the time you sold it. That still happens when you purchase assets directly with your crypto, but you might get a more advantageous purchase. You're not having to sell as many assets potentially, right? Like having the ease to just buy something directly with your crypto is a lot more efficient. It's a lot more manageable. So there's a lot of benefits that are coming from being able to purchase things directly with your crypto, as opposed to having to sell it and turn it into cash in order to make the purchase.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. And um, so when somebody wants to start crypto, like how much do you need to get started, and what are the biggest obstacles for most people to get started?
So right now in the crypto space, if you're thinking pure like crypto assets or tokens, there's over 5,000 different um, cryptocurrencies or tokens related to networks available that you could invest in. So one of the biggest obstacles is people, one, knowing what to invest in, and two, feeling comfortable investing, because there are also a lot of quick money scams underway where people set up a network and they create a token and then they hype the token on social media, and it's called a pump and dump scheme, where they pump up the hype around a token, get people to invest, which supply and demand drives the price up, and then sell their tokens for more money. And then like is there really any value in that asset? Because one of the things to remember is just because it's a crypto asset, who's defining what the value of the asset is? So an understanding of market dynamics, of asset valuation, is really important, and that can be complex to people. Like, how do I even know like what cryptocurrencies would I want to invest in? Which platforms have value? How do I know that? How do I understand that? So navigating in that space can feel super overwhelming. So I would say there's a knowledge and a comfort level that's probably the true biggest barrier. From a like mechanical barrier, there's very little barriers. You can take $10 and buy some crypto through Venmo. I mean, like, again, the financial tools and mechanisms are enabling it, so any of us can buy crypto at any time. The question is, when do you want to buy, right? Again, is stuff on sale or is at a peak price point? And what do you want to buy? And why do you want to buy it? What are your investment goals? Do you just want to own some? Do you want to be able to say you have it? Do you want to invest it in or use it on one of the networks that exist? Do you want to use it to buy something in the metaverse? which we haven't even talked about, right? Like, so
Mhm.
they have uses in other ways. So do you want the token to be able to utilize it? Are you investing in it because you think it's going to grow over time? What's the time horizon that you're investing for? Do you understand the underlying specific use of the network or the asset that you're investing in? Do you understand its growth potential? So there's a lot more questions to be asked before entering into investing, and it's really how comfortable are you seeking out those answers, comfortable playing in the space. Like, it's probably one of the easiest times now to actually get involved, but there's also more information and cryptocurrencies than ever before. So knowing how to use discernment to guide you into what to invest in is probably the most challenging thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve if you're not used to investing, and knowing the terminology, I think, is a big one for people, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a foreign language for most people unless you've been in financial or investing type or even banking. But yeah, absolutely. And how would you say that this is changing, how crypto is changing the virtual landscape and the wealth conversation for women in regards to this?
Well, I think it's changing the wealth conversation for all humans, and creating greater access to greater wealth. And that benefits all humans that may have had limited or controlled access to wealth in the past. So, and it's not just to wealth. This is one of the things I'm going to talk about in my overview session that I'm hosting, is the underlying technology that's being used in these on these networks has ramifications beyond the financial services industry. One of the big ones that has the distributed ledger system can be used as powerful technology in a lot of different ways. So, like in the US, the voting system is a mess, right? Like the
Yeah.
mechanics for voting and registering votes and recording and tabulating votes, a blockchain network could be utilized to solve the voting dynamics and implement something systematically across all states, across the United States, to make voting accessible to all humans, all registered voters, and make it possible for people to register more seamlessly. Like, the technology has uses beyond ways in which it might be currently utilized. And so that there's access to so many things possible, not just financially, but from a like systems of access to information, to ideas, to being represented as humans, to financial access to wealth. Like, the technology that's developing and underway has the potential to massively change our world, and it will. The question is, who's going to be involved in deciding how the technology is utilized and for what things it's utilized. And this is why I'm passionate about having particularly more women and more underrepresented populations understand the potential of the technology, because like this is the new frontier of how the systems in our world will be developed, and I want broader representation of humans involved in
Yes.
the decision making, because our world will change, and it will change in intense ways. This is the newest industrial revolution. Artificial intelligence, blockchain technology fused together with 5G internet speeds, all three of those things combined have the potential to massively and will massively change the world as we know it. And we need more people in the conversations around how that's going to be utilized. So it's
Yes.
not just wealth, it's the whole
Everything.
fabric and nature of our
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And the wealth comes with that, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. I'm so glad you brought in those aspects too, because just like we know it in modern day culture, we need more voices from women, women of color, unrepresented community, underrepresented communities. And the more this is why I'm such a big advocate for education and having conversations like this, because the more you know, the better you do and the more access you have. And because it's still kind of its like beginning stages, the more that we can all get educated now and get in with it and be the pioneers of it and get to have those voices is so important. To again see the changes that we want to create and get to have a say in what that looks like and setting the foundation. That's so powerful. Amazing. Well, with that being said, for the women who are interested and ready to start learning about cryptocurrency and want an overview that's way more in depth than what we will be doing here, I'd love for you to share about your upcoming training. I know when I saw it, I was like, ah! I was like immediately signing up for it. So, and I know there's a lot of other women too. So, yeah, please tell us about the training you're having later this week, and I'll make sure to pop the link for it in the live after this as well.
Thank you. I'm so excited. So it's going to be a 90-minute overview educational session, kind of walking through like terms, foundation, all the different things that somebody would need to know to feel like they had a basic building block understanding of this landscape and the implications that are coming as a result of the technology that's in play, as well as an exploration of considerations if you want to start investing, what that could look like. My number one tip on how to leverage what's available in the cryptocurrency sphere from a financial services perspective. The number one savings mechanism that's available that many people don't realize. You know, most banks nowadays, if you have a savings account, you're barely getting any interest on it. And so there's a specific app that I use and and recommend, and I'm going to tell people how they could move their savings dollars into that app and be earning 8 to 10% interest instead of the minor amount of interest they get now, like just as a way to like dip your toe in. And it doesn't even involve purchasing a cryptocurrency. It does involve a digital currency, but the different low risk ways to do that, where there's almost minimal zero risk, and you could at least be earning 9% on whatever your savings are, which is like at a minimum, it feels like something that's like super accessible for all humans and is at least helping move the ball forward. And maybe those savings, you know, the interest from that, you could start investing in crypto or whatever you want to do. So that feels like a super accessible starting point that I want to offer to folks, tips and guidance on that. So it's a 90-minute session. It's a Zoom session. It will be recorded. The replay will be available for folks in a private Facebook group. So folks can sign up even if they can't attend this Thursday, the 18th at noon Eastern. They can sign up to receive the information and the replay link, and then they'll have access to the replay. I will also be hosting a special additional deeper dive session on December 2nd. And if they fill out a survey for the overview session, they'll get entered in a drawing to win a ticket to the event on the 2nd. So the event on the 2nd will be a deeper dive paid session, but there's opportunities to win free access to that. And I'll have some other juicy offers for folks too about additional educational or consulting guidance in this sphere, really just wanting to broaden understanding of what's happening in this sphere, get conversations going, get women in the conversations, have the opportunity. It's so excited. So already for the session on Thursday, I think there are 180 folks registered, women and non-binary humans only, and several of the folks that are registered are already like exploring crypto, and like I'm just so excited for women to attend and see 180 other women that are learning, exploring, open to wanting to understand this space, and like the power of that ideation all together and the potential leaders that can make a difference in the world, like that just super excites me. So I want to have more and more of these types of sessions and forums where people can come together and share in a way that feels fun and accessible and heart-centric. That was one of the powerful things that came alive for me, why it took me so long to start talking about this, is I felt a lot of shame around being relatively successful in this arena and having knowledge, because culturally we don't really have female icons or examples of conscious ethical investors. You know, like the cultural iconography is these sort of like misogynistic, greedy, unethical male figures from movies. Like, where are the
Like the
powerful,
Wolf of
heart
Wall
centered?
Street kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like,
Yeah.
so I'm offering myself as an antithesis to that. I want to create a different vision of what investing profiles can look like. And we need more women stepping forward and saying, yeah, I do this and I'm good at it and I'm ethical and I'm heart led and we're creating a different world. And so that's what I'm starting to champion.
I love it. I love it. And I'm celebrating you stepping out of the crypto closet and owning your success and celebrating your success, because we need, as women, we need to celebrate each other's success, because what that does is allow you to see what is possible for you. So rather than getting jealous or competitive or any of that shit, it's like, how can we network? How can I learn from her? How can we rise together and collaborate and all of that thing in community and heart led and all of that. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to drop the link to her training. It is this week. Do not miss it. Get signed up. Maybe you'll win one of the like opportunities to get in. And yeah, if there's any questions, you can pop them in the chat. And we can come back and answer those later. And yeah, make sure to sign up for this. The link will be in there. And Jaime, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your expertise and your wisdom about crypto. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was incredible. And
Of course.
I'm so touched at the invitation. And thank you for creating this powerful space for people to tell their stories and share and inspire one another, and being a leader that leads by example. So thank you for that.
Thank you.